one thing that truly unites all Americans, it's that everyone hates paying more for stuff. That is why, when inflation sent the price of everyday goods soaring in the wake of the pandemic, you saw it reflected in poll after poll after poll. People's view of the economy plummeted. So did their approval of the president. In fact, this happened basically across the Western world. It was everyone's first taste of real sharp inflation in a generation. And guess what? People really hated it, which is, of course, completely understandable because, well, it really, really sucked. In 2020, your average family of four paid about $927 a month for groceries. At the height of inflation in 2022, the average was $1,307 a month. That's $400 more a month. Now, that has started to come down, actually, in real terms. The average at the end of last year was around $1,261, but again, still up from 2020. And the experience of paying more and more and feeling like prices are out of control and feeling squeezed translates to disaffection. And that disaffection is probably the single biggest advantage you can have as, say, the challenger to an incumbent president operating in a world in which prices have gone up. And yet, the Republican challenger, President Biden, isn't running on lowering prices. He's actually running on jacking up prices on a huge amount of the goods we use every day. And I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but genuinely, and I want to be clear here, his core economic policy proposal right now is an across-the-board consumer sales tax for every single good imported into the United States. Now, he may call it a tariff.
So here's the deal. Trump recently got caught on a hot mic. I covered this in another clip where he basically said he was in front of a bunch of like his billionaire friends, right, at Mar-a-Lago, and he basically told them, look, I'm going to lower all your taxes. Okay? Well, how do you do that? And we've covered this before. Income tax eats away a lot at the rich, but the rich don't pay a ton of it because there's a ton of loopholes. The corporations don't pay a ton of it. And the big thing with the rich is they make most of their money on their investments and their money-making money, and there's no wealth tax, so they don't get paid. They don't get taxed on any of their wealth, their gains, right? Hardly, unless they cash it out, which most of them don't. They borrow money against it, so they don't ever have to pay taxes. And then they inherit it. Their kids inherit it at a stepped-up basis. And Biden's proposal is let's do a 25% wealth tax over $100 million. And we covered it. I don't know, were you there when I covered it? I covered it a while ago. But anyway, so Biden's proposing taxing the rich. Trump's proposing we're going to keep the tax cuts for the rich and the loopholes going forward, which means everybody who makes less than whatever is $400,000 a year, our taxes are going to go up next year, unless it gets reversed, which Biden's pushing to do. Our taxes are going to go up significantly next year under the Trump tax plan. Right, all those minor cuts and stuff that we got, which were hardly anything, all those get thrown out, and our taxes go way back up. So you'd be paying more in tax under Trump. On top of that, he's going to start charging tariffs to other countries because he thinks this is a good idea. What it is basically is it's just a way to do a sales tax. So he's going to put a tariff on. This is what Davos was freaking out about, because if he starts putting these huge tariffs on, like, say, Chinese goods coming into the country or European goods, right? Do you think those companies are just going to eat that money? No, they're going to jack up the cost of the goods. So when the person buying it here buys it, they're paying the tariff. And do you think they're going to eat that money? No, they're going to jack up the cost. So when they distribute it out to the stores are going to pay more money in wholesale for it. And do you think the stores are going to eat that money? No. They're going to jack up the prices on all the goods, so the consumers end up eating all that money. Right? So you, me, everybody else, when we go buy milk, eggs, gas, anything, we're paying more. And sales tax doesn't really affect the rich as much, because if Lacey has $1 billion and I only have $50,000, right? And we both pay sales tax. Well, sales tax, she's not going to purchase that much more shit than I am, to any significant amount to her income. She's using maybe 1% of her income a year. 1% of her income
percentage-wise.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not being affected so much.
Right. If she spends $10 million in that year as a billionaire, she's only paying 1% of her income. I, on the other end, with $50,000 a year, I'm paying pretty much all of my income. At least 80 or 90% is going to buy shit that I need to survive. So all of my income is getting taxed on a sales tax, while only 1 or 2% of hers is. So a sales tax is to hurt the poor or the middle class, and even the upper middle class get hurt more. The ultra rich don't even feel it. That's the whole difference with the tax plans. So you have Biden on one hand saying, you know what, to cover Social Security, which Trump was also talking about cutting, to do things to help the middle class and expand the middle class, to expand the economy. We're going to try and levy a 25% tax on wealth gained over $100 million. Trump saying, we're going to cut all that. We're going to raise taxes on the middle class and the lower middle class and the upper middle class, so that the rich don't have to pay taxes. Those are your two choices.
What a swell guy.
Yeah, but it doesn't just hurt consumers. It hurts businesses, all businesses, even the big evil corporations, right? Because if I'm selling gasoline or cigarettes or whatnot, or guns or booze or whatever, I need to sell them to the middle class. That's my market. And if my market can't afford it, then I'm the one taking the hit. He doesn't see it from the other side, which is,
right.
We want the people to be wealthy and happy, or at least fairly rich and happy, because we want them to buy our shit. If they're fucking broke and we're overtaxing them and we don't give them basic civil benefits.
If they're broke because the price of bananas is too high, they're not buying your other stuff.
Right.
They're just not.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, the whole thing, that's why they were freaking, that was the whole thing with Davos, and I wanted to kind of point it out because Trump's hammered that home that he's really going to do it. He's really going to screw everybody if he becomes president. It's going to be all about how much money can he save himself and his buddies and try and get him with the ultra rich. Basically, they want to establish a new hierarchy, a new royalty. I mean, but that's what conservatives always want to do anyway. Well, with all that going on, he's got another issue. So this is the other thing we get to do, and I told you so about. So he has the bond in New York, right? He owes what, 470 or something billion or million now. Sorry, 470 million. Couldn't come up with it. They said it was an impossibility. They couldn't get the money. Then out of nowhere, this guy Hanky from California, who does subprime auto lending, so he does like usury, kind of things where he gives these incredibly expensive loans to poor people with bad credit.
Dante wrote a special ring in hell for people like that. I'm just saying.
Yep, that's actually true. Yep, there is in Inferno. Yep.
I know. I wasn't making that up.
I know.
Funny and true.
Good reference. But so he would charge them these huge interest rates on these shitty loans, and then when these people inevitably couldn't pay it, he just repossessed their cars. So he's just taking advantage of poor people who don't know what's going on. So that's how that guy's made his billions.
That makes him the appropriate type of Trump supporter,
Oh, he's a big Trump supporter. He's giving Trump a lot of money. But he came in and they lowered the bond to $175 million. I mean, I get why they did it. In retrospect, it ended up being a bad idea, so I was wrong about that. But, they lowered it. This guy, Hanky, comes in and says, okay, we'll cover it with my insurance company. Now it turns out there's some problems with the insurance company. So we're going to jump in. This is Michael Popak with the Midas Touch, and he's going to talk a little bit about this.
This is Michael Popak, Legal AF Hot Take. Did Donald Trump's lawyers lie to the Appellate Division First Department about his inability to obtain a bond when they knew or should have known that Don Hanke, who runs the company Knight Specialty Insurance Company that eventually posted the $175 million bond, had already come forward and said that he was willing to engage to talk about the posting of a bond for the much larger amount, the $465 million, at the very same time the lawyers for Donald Trump, including Alina Habba, including Chris Keiss, including Todd Blanche, were telling the appellate court that they looked everywhere and they can't find a bonding company to step forward, that they had been rejected, as they had told Judge Engoron, by more than 37 or more bonding companies when Don Henke, who apparently likes to talk to the media about his role in bonding Donald Trump, has now come forward in an interview with ProPublica and has declared that, no, I was on the radar with the Trump team before they filed their papers with the Appellate Division First Department about not being able to fund a bonding company. And I was in deep discussions with them about doing just that. In fact, he goes on.
So Henke gave up the game. So his lawyers went to the court and said, hey, Trump doesn't really have the $400 million, because he said he had $400 million in cash. He doesn't have it. We can't put up the bond. No bonding company will deal with us. It's too big of an amount. Blah, 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 blah. That and his credit is for shit. Nobody will loan him money. And they told the court, we just can't do it. It's a practical impossibility to get a loan, is what they told the court. And the appeals court said, all right, fine, we'll lower it to 175 to do the stay for the appeal, right? So then this guy Henke comes out and says, okay, I'll cover the 175. Well, Henke then goes on TV and says, oh, no, I would have given Trump the whole $470 million to cover the bond. So his lawyers lied, so Trump wouldn't have to borrow all that money from Henke, because Henke's going to charge him a lot of interest. He's already getting 9% from New York, but Henke's going to charge him more. So there's that portion of it. Then there's the other portion of it, which I'll just tell you about. Henke's full of shit. Because initially we covered this last week. He went in and he posted the bond. They went in and said, okay, send all the paperwork. He sent the paperwork. They rejected the paperwork. The court clerk did. And said, well, you haven't given us financial statements or anything else. Right? So he finally sends them financial statements. But he types them up they're typed up in a motion. There's no audit. There's not signed by any auditor or accountant firm or anything. So they're just whatever statements he bullshitted on paper. It would be like me writing you an IOU on a fucking cocktail napkin. It's meaningless, right? So he gives that to the court as his financial statements. And even those financial statements say the company only has about $130 million. That the Knight Insurance that he's using as the bonding company only has $130 million. And Letitia James is like, well, that's not enough, because 130 won't even cover the 175. Plus, typically to be a bonding company, the bond you post cannot be more than 10% of your assets that you have available. Otherwise, you're insolvent. Oh. Right? This is just standard insurance. Right? You need to be able to pay back your claims if things happen, right? If there's a disaster. So he can't even cover it. And it's already, whatever it is, 170% of what he has in this little company. When Letitia James even was like, no, that he can't cover it. There's no reliability. We'll get the money. And we might have to go seize shit from Don Henke. Right? I think that's his name. And Trump. And it'll be a big fucking clusterfuck. So she wants to have a hearing. And she's like, I'm not even sure this guy's licensed to do this in New York. Because you have to be a licensed insurance agent. In each state you sell insurance. I've sold insurance before as part of my practice. You have to get licensed in the state. So like if I had clients in Washington or California, it was a pain because I had to go get licensed to get that shit done. Right? Well, Henke's not licensed in New York. And we know that for sure now because his whole response to Letitia James's his attorney's response to Letitia James's questioning was, Don Henke this company doesn't need to meet the bonding requirements, the insurance requirements at all, because he's not even licensed. That was their argument. That would be like me going into a hospital and walking into a room and performing surgery and the guy dies and like, hey, you're liable, you killed him. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm not even a doctor. You can't hold it against me.
Oh my God. It's such a disaster. It's such a disaster. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of looking forward to some Trump buildings having a different name slapped on the side of them.
Yeah. Yep. So it's funny to me because he lied to the court to get it reduced, right? The amount reduced for the bond. They could have gotten the 470 from Henke. They just didn't want him because it cost them too much. And the other thing, so they lied. They flat out lied to the court here was the ProPublica article he was talking about right here, where they talk about this. He just flat out lied. His attorneys lied to the court. And on top of that fact, the guy, they're going to a hearing now. So they're going back in front of Engoron, who was the judge who heard the case, on I think it's the 24th or the 25th of this month, later this month. So, 2 weeks from now? And they're going to have to explain this, and Engoron might sit there. So all they did was buy themselves till the end of the month, because Engoron's probably going to sit there and go, well, no, you can't cover it unless you have it in cash or something. And so I'm not going to accept this bond from behalf of the court, and you can appeal that. But while you're pending all that, you're way past the 20 days past the deadline now, 30 days past the or more than that, 30 days past the deadline. Letitia James looks like she's going to have to start seizing his shit and freezing his bank accounts.
I can almost hear Trump saying, the courts are being mean to me.
It's so unfair. It's a witch hunt. It's election.
Mean to me, it's a witch hunt.
It's election interference.
The courts have gotten political now. They're not.
And then they did dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
So that whole thing. So this guy Henke too. He's given Trump. It turns out he's given Trump like over $400 million over the last like 7 or 8 years. And he's given Jared Kushner tens of millions while he was in the White House. This guy is just trying to buy favor from who he thinks is going to be the next president. He's trying to buy him off. I mean, that's what it is. And this guy Henke's super dirty. But this whole thing was a scam. The money wasn't there. So for all of you that were like, when we said, hey, I don't think he's going to cover the bond, and you were like, well, see, he did. He got a bond. He covered it. We were like, well, we'll see when it posts. And they were like, well, he's covered it. You should just admit you were wrong. I said, we'll see. If he posts, we'll admit we're wrong. Guess what? Didn't post. He's going to court because the fucking thing's a scam. So I'll take you guys double or nothing that Goran says, fuck this shit, and Letitia James has to start seizing his accounts and then start going after his properties. Which I feel bad for Letitia James. That's a lot of unnecessary work for her, but, you're the DA. Oh, man. So, there's that. So, while that's going on, he's got that hearing, which he doesn't have to be at, fortunately, because he'll be in criminal court that same time, starting.
Man, what a hot mess. And people are like so, into him, I just can't understand, like, wow, he's a disaster. We love that, know?
He's a fucking train wreck. He's a bull in a china shop. I mean, the only reason we report on it so much is because it's every day it's a fucking scam or disaster or bullshit it's all crap. And we at least still have a good sense of humor about it because we've only been doing this for a short amount of time. And we just do it for fun. So we're not like beholden to report on this shit all the time. But the thing about it is, so he's going to court Monday. They're doing jury selection. It is not looking good. And basically, he's tried to delay this case now 10 or 11 times. They filed motions, and all of them have been rejected by the court. And we're going to hear about the latest round of these from Anderson Cooper, who I think is just so sick of this shit. He doesn't care. And everybody, before we begin this, check out what the Chiron is. Spaghetti meet wall. It means they're just throwing shit at the wall hoping it sticks.
I'm not going to lie, that title really makes me happy. I'm so amused.
That's why I
Spaghetti meet wall.
That's why I picked this clip, because you can tell Anderson Cooper's like, fucking this shit with again with this motherfucker. I got to report on this. Okay, here we go.
I really love Anderson Cooper. I just have to say I love him.
All right.
Late today, a New York appeals court judge denied his motion to delay Monday's hush money criminal trial. And apologies for not prefacing that with stop me if you've heard this before, because you have. Here's the headline from just 2 days ago. Appeals court denies another Trump attempt to delay trial. Again, that was Monday, seeking more time to pursue a change of venue motion. Ditto yesterday, asking for more time to challenge the gag order their client is under. Today, it got even richer, with one Trump attorney arguing for more time to file more defense motions, to which Stephen Wu, arguing for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, said, was simply not the way these things work. We're going to leave that for our legal panel to sort out in a moment. One thing, though, is clear. These last three motions are only the most recent attempts to delay or derail things. Last week, he filed a motion demanding the trial judge recuse himself for the second time. The first was last summer. He has also tried to exclude testimony from his one-time lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen. That was denied last month, as was his motion to do the same for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, and motions to exclude virtually every piece of prosecution evidence, including on the catch and kill scheme, which is at the heart of the case. And we should point out, as a criminal defendant, even one who once told police, and I quote, "Please don't be too nice to criminal suspects," the former president has every right to do what he is doing, every right to try to delay justice, even while complaining, as he did yet again today on his social network, that he should have been charged 3 years ago instead of during the campaign. And even, of course, though he's shown up for numerous pretrial hearings in this and other trials, none of which he was required to, and raising money off them all the while. So more on tonight's ruling from CNN's Kara Scannell, who joins us.
So it's just shit upon shit upon shit upon shit. I mean, it's just amazing with this guy. But that's what's going on. So he's trying to delay. I love that last motion. Your Honor, we need to delay the trial. And I'm writing you this motion, and the reason I'm writing you this motion to delay the trial is I need more time to think up more bullshit motions to write you. That was the last fucking delay tactic.
I mean, like, are we kidding? Are we actually serious right now?
That lie didn't work. Okay, I need more time to come up with a new lie.
Oh my God.
Oh man. Cracks me up. So that's what's going on there with Trump and his criminal trial. The whole thing's just totally crazy. Anyway, why don't we take a really quick break and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up with stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Take like a 5 maybe?
Yeah, 5 minutes. We'll be right back, everybody.
All right, cool.
Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, and healthy American families. We want to make it easier for mothers and families to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America, like the overwhelming.
So I want to kind of get into that for a second. The thing about the IVF situation that kind of screwed him here is that in Alabama, they basically said that a frozen embryo is a person. So all the IVF clinics pretty much shut down because now the legal liability is way too high. There's no point. So
Right.
we're trying to make it easier for people to have families. No, you're not. Guys just made it fucking harder. Right? So, I mean, it's all ridiculous. So that's why he's bringing that up. But he's trying to also walk back the abortion thing because it's just been draconian.
Overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby. What could be more beautiful or better than that? Today, I'm pleased that the Alabama legislature has acted very quickly and passed legislation that preserves the availability of IVF in Alabama. They really did a great and fast job. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers, father, their beautiful babies, and that's what we are. IVF is an important part of that, and our great Republican Party will always be with you in your quest for the ultimate joy in life. Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted.
So, there it is. He admits it. I got abortion banned. And I love this. People don't know my position on this. Dude, you were president for 4 years. You've been running for the last 4 years. You've been running for the last 10 years. If people don't know your position at this point, you're a fucking idiot. Or you're a horrible communicator. And furthermore, the thing about it is, we do know your position. Your position is what's going to get me elected? Once I get elected, all bets are off. It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I want. That's your position. That's always been your position. Because he was pro-abortion rights back in the day. Then when he ran as president, he realized to get the base, he was like, nope, I'm anti. We're going to put in Supreme Court justices to ban it. That's what they did. Now he's like, well, now it's not popular because we banned it, and all hundreds, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of women are suffering because of this. People have died because of this. People are infertile because of this. People had severe health problems because of this, and we're hearing about it every fucking day. And now it's unpopular because it's just destroyed all these people's lives, and women are heavily against him. Now he's like, well, I'm for, abortion rights. But now he's trying to do this walk back, and his whole thing, and I'll just wrap this up because he's just going to jibber jabber for most of it and just lie. First off, no legal scholars were sitting there going, we need to get rid of abortion. That was not a thing. He lied about that. But the thing about it was, he's bullshitting about this whole thing. He's walking it back, and his position now is, well, it should be left up to the states. And it's like, well, dude, that's happened, and states that have banned it are starting to go blue, and all the abortion referendums that have come up have been voted against banning abortion. You haven't won a single fucking one of those. So, I mean, it's all kind of horseshit, but they realize this is toxic and this is going to hurt them in the election, so they're walking it back. So he's doing that. Right after he does that, this happens. We're going to go to Lawrence O'Donnell because this is fucking crazy.
Well, Arizona has a longer history as part of Spain than it does as part of the United States. The name Arizona is thought to be a blend of Spanish and a local tribal language meaning small spring. Arizona spent 300 years as part of Spain, beginning in 1521. Then, in 1821, when Mexico won its independence from Spain, Arizona began its short history as part of the independent country of Mexico. The United States seized all of the most valuable parts of.
He's getting into this, I'm sorry, we'll skip ahead a little bit, but he's getting into sort of the history here because the reasoning behind this is this. So this is an old Arizona law that's now been reinstated. This happened right after Trump's statement, pretty much. This is the law from 1863, before Arizona was a state.
A pregnant woman or procures such woman to take any medicine, drugs, or substance, or uses or employs any instrument or other means whatever, with intent thereby to procure the miscarriage of such woman, unless it is necessary to save her life, shall be punished by imprisonment in the state prison for not less than 2 years nor more than 5 years. Arizona was the last of the 48 contiguous states to become a state. 48 years.
So, prior to Arizona becoming a state, they had a law when they were an independent sort of area by a judge there who was, I think, was under Lincoln, when Lincoln was president back in the 1860s. Mm-hmm. So in 1863, prior to the Civil War and all that shit, this guy basically came out with a ruling, and the ruling was, all right, any abortion, whether it's medical, chemical, surgical, whatever, it doesn't matter, is a felony unless the woman's life is at risk, right? And what that means, God fucking knows back in 1863 how you determine that. Right. It's hard to determine today. What is life-threatening, right? When does that line get crossed? But unless that's the case, anybody who has an abortion, aids an abortion, does the abortion, assists, all those people, minimum 2 years prison. 2 to 5 years. Arizona Supreme Court, conservative Supreme Court, just upheld this law from 1863 before they were a state. And now that's the law in Arizona.
Mm.
So Arizona.
Oh my gosh, women of Arizona, get your butts out there and vote.
So they have a total abortion ban in Arizona right now, and that happened right after Trump. just said that. And it's like, and who's done this? Conservative judges. And then the Republican House, they tried to have a vote to overrule that, to put back the previous law. And Republicans called recess and wouldn't have a vote. So now that's the law in Arizona. Because they knew they'd lose the vote. So they wouldn't take a vote. So right now, if you're in Arizona, you can't get an abortion. It's 2 years in prison. Now.
That's literally crazy. That's
Yeah.
literally crazy.
But that's what's going on. But that's why it's so toxic, and it's such a toxic thing. Now, here's what's funny. A big Trump supporter and somebody he's a big fan of, Carrie Lake, is running for Senate in Arizona. She lost last year to the House race, or a couple years ago. She got stomped. And she's one of those people that was claiming the election was rigged the whole time. She still is. Anyway, she was very, very anti-abortion. And I'm sure she still is. But now she knows, well, she's running for Senate and she's probably going to get stomped again. She knows that that's not popular. Now that they passed this, they know the outrage from the public in Arizona is palpable and is going to kill her in the election. Problem is she supported all this. She supported this specific ruling and this law years before they did this. And now she's trying to walk it back. And they're going to cover this a little bit of Morning Joe, but it's fucking hilarious.
There is no clearer example of how toxic this issue is and this ruling is for Republicans, particularly within the state of Arizona, than Carrie Lake. The Arizona Republican Senate candidate yesterday came out strongly against Arizona's Supreme Court ruling. She wrote in part, "I am the only woman and mother in this race. I understand the fear and anxiety of pregnancy and the joy of motherhood. I oppose today's ruling, and I'm calling on Katie Hobbs and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonans can support." Well, that is not what Carrie Lake was saying just 2 years ago when she was running for governor, promising to support whatever the state Supreme Court decided.
I don't believe in abortion. I think the older law is going to go into effect. That's what I believe will happen. I don't think abortion pills should be legal. We have a great law on the books right now. If that happens, we will be a state where we will not be taking the lives of our unborn anymore.
I'm incredibly thrilled that we are going to have a great law that's already on the books. So it will prohibit abortion in Arizona, and I think we're going to be paving the way and setting course for other states to follow.
Von Hilliard, you have covered Arizona very closely. You've covered Carrie Lake.
So now she's walking this shit back. Oh, no, I didn't. No. She even cited the fucking law.
Her opinion is what she thinks her opinion needs to be.
Right. That's, again, what is their position on abortion? Well, during the election year, it's whatever gets them elected. After they get elected, she's going to go right back to this shit to pander to her base. But now she's going to fucking bullshit you to try, and that's what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to bullshit you. Because he was talking about, well, maybe a 15-week ban, maybe a 6-week ban, da-da-da. We covered that last week. He was talking about that. Now he realizes how volatile this stuff is. So he goes, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it up to the states, right? And now this happens in Arizona, so it's doubly bad for him and the Republicans, on top of the fact that it's triply bad for Trump because he said, well, no, we're just going to leave it to the states. I'm not going to sign a national abortion ban, right? I don't know that he said it specifically, but he's implying it, right? No, he's not going to do a national abortion ban. Well, now, the far right, his supporters, are all pissed off that he's walking it back. You can't fence sit on this issue. You got to be on one side or the other. You fence sit, you're a piece of shit. I mean, that's to one side or the other. You're a piece of shit. But if you're sitting on the fence, then you're a piece of shit to everybody, right?
You kind of can't be lukewarm on this one.
No.
You know?
No, you can't. You have to make a decision and pull the trigger. But that's what's going on with that. So here's Biden and his campaign. So Kamala Harris especially has been hitting a campaign trail hard about the abortion issue, which is, here's the benefit of having a female vice president or female in the White House, is she can talk about this more cogently than Biden can, or most of the other people there. But they just did this commercial, and this commercial is called Willow's Box, and they're going to run this heavily throughout the state of Arizona and all the swing states. But this is what's going on. So check this out, because this is just tragic.
This is one of our willow boxes. This is just filled with some of the things that we had started gathering for her while I was pregnant.
Yep.
There's her little baby book. This is the outfit that she was gonna maybe wear home from the hospital. All of these. This is the blanket that she was in. And these are her little footprints.
It's okay.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
So that's the message.
Excuse me,
that's
would you
going out.
mind taking a picture of us?
Oh, no
That's
problem.
going on. So, pretty powerful shit.
Yeah, well, you know what? People don't bother to actually stop and think about that. Like, this woman is an example of someone who she did not have the abortion. She still does not have her beautiful baby, and she almost died twice.
And now it's unlikely she'll ever have children because they didn't give her the procedure.
And she's clearly somebody who wanted to have them.
Yeah, so her life has just been ruined because of this law. They could have just given her the procedure and she'd be fine. It'd be done. She'd be able to have another kid.
She wouldn't have almost died, and she would be able to, once, feeling better about it, try to conceive again and be able to do so.
Well, and people forget that too. The other thing about the abortion laws is, what's like 1 in 4 pregnancies is a miscarriage, results in a miscarriage. People forget how pregnancy's not like, it's not. This is the problem. People think, okay, you get pregnant and you have a kid. It's not that hard. Pregnancy is a life-threatening event. It's half of all humans died from childbirth. I mean, that's just a historical fact. I mean, it doesn't happen as much today as it used to, but because we have a lot more better medical technology. But yeah, it's dangerous. I know a woman who they thought normal, healthy pregnancy, complications occurred. She decided to keep the baby, ended up causing blood clotting and issues, and they had to amputate both her legs. And that was the result of the pregnancy, complications with the pregnancy. I had a friend who, she finally had a kid after she miscarried 7 or 8 times. And she probably wouldn't have been able to have a kid because every time she miscarried, they had to abort it.
Right.
And if they didn't, she had to carry a dead fetus inside of her for 9 months. Or a dead child while it was growing and incubating, even though it was dead. And that's what they're doing in Texas. They have women who are 8 months pregnant because they can't get an abortion, and the child is dead. They're carrying a corpse around inside them. But they can't get an abortion because it's illegal.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's fucking insane. I wanted to cover this real quick while we're talking, because the abortion issue, I mean, it's going to be huge. Because this is why they passed Roe, or the Supreme Court did the arguments on Roe. But when the Roe came through, you got to remember, this was common, like it is starting to become now throughout the United States, where thousands and thousands, it's hundreds of thousands of women now, every year get abortions. Now a lot of them can't. So you're talking about tens of thousands of women are going through similar shit because they can't get abortions. And it used to be, okay, well, we do it, what's called a DNC, which is a pretty simple procedure to get rid of the miscarriage or the problem, or if it's an ectopic pregnancy, which is often lethal, it can be fatal for the mother.
Yeah, these are really dangerous.
Right. I want to talk about this because when you talk to people who are pro-life, they always do the baby, and we want to protect the baby, the Trump shit, right? We want to protect the precious baby shit. We're always forgetting there's another person here. The person carrying the child. That's who we're talking about their rights too. That's why I've said before, it doesn't matter to me if you want to say it's a person at the moment that the sperm enters the egg or the penis enters the vagina or whatever. You know, you can say that, it's fine, but the bottom line is, does it have rights at that point? I don't agree with that, but I don't think it does. And I think, furthermore, even if we wanted to concede that, okay, it has rights. Okay, does it have the right to use the mother's body without her permission? We wouldn't allow that in any other scenario, but for this one, you guys make an exception. And it's...
If a man decides to use the woman's body without her permission, we call that rape. We don't let that be okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, and these are the same people who are like, well, I'm not going to wear a mask or get a vaccine. It's like, well, nobody made anybody get a vaccine. It was voluntary, you know. But the thing about that, too, is like, well, okay, my body, my choice for me, but not for a pregnant woman. Once again, it's always for them. It's for me, socialism for me, not for thee, right? I should have rights, you shouldn't. But I want to talk about this because these are the types of women that get pregnant, right? Or they get abortions, sorry. And I want to go through this issue. So, just this article in the New Yorker, they're just talking about different people who get abortions and whatnot, and they had some neat charts in here. So, since Roe v. Wade, abortions spiked for a while because they became legal and they were reported. Now, statistically speaking, did they really go up that much? No. It was just legal abortions went way up. So they were being reported. Right now in these states where it's illegal, lots and lots of women are still getting abortions. They're just not doing it legally, which means it's unsafe because they're usually hiring somebody or they're taking something over, you know, some drug they got from somewhere. So abortions that if you can see this graph have gone way the fuck down. It's lower than it was. Way, way lower than it was pre-Roe. Now, these are the types of people. So, 40% have never had children before. 60% of women that get abortions already have children. They just can't afford more. Or they don't have the time, or they just want to be a better parent to the kids they have. So they get pregnant, and they don't want to have the third kid, so they get an abortion. Because they want to focus on the two existing kids. Right?
Right.
So 60%, that's over half. That's 6 out of 10 already have kids. All right? Now, when do they do it? First trimester, 43% have it in the first 6 weeks. Now, part of that, too, is because of that's number's gone up because of the availability of abortifacients, right? Drugs that you can take, like the morning after pill or Plan B, right? A lot of the stuff you can get, and you can get it mailed now, which they're trying to make illegal.
Plan B is not an abortion. It's different from the abortion pill.
Right. But, it's a contraceptive, right?
Right.
By definition.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so you can get these abortifacients now through the mail, except for they're trying to make that illegal now, and now it is illegal in Arizona. You can't even take the drug to have an abortion. You can't sell it. Or you're doing 2 years in prison. They're trying to ban it in all these other states. So that's a factor. And then 36%, so 7 to 9 weeks. So already there, you're looking at 80% almost, right, in the first 9 weeks. And then they do 10 to 13 weeks is 13, 14 to 15 is 3%, and then 16 weeks or more is 4%. And the 16 weeks or more... 16 weeks or more, those are like life-threatening kinds of instances that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So when Republicans are, they want to abort babies as they're coming out of the birth canal, it's like, no, that's called a birth, dipshit. That doesn't make any sense. At that point, it's a living person, right?
No, it looks like it's about 80% of them are within the first 9 weeks, and as we discussed before, within the first 6 weeks, somebody might not realize they're pregnant until after 6 weeks has even gone by. Right. Very, very easily. If you're not a super regular person, you might not even take a test until you're 6 weeks.
Right. You might not know. But I wanted to point that out. But part of that argument is, well, most happen in the first 6 weeks, so we'll just do a six-week ban or a 15-week ban or whatever it is. That's where they come up with those numbers. But part of it is like, well, that's even stupider because the 7% that happen after 15 weeks, the 4% that happen after 16, those procedures are the ones that are the most medically necessary. Those are the ones where they decided to keep the child and then something went wrong. That's not, I've been pregnant now for 8 months and I've just decided, well, after I've decided I'm going to change my mind, I don't want to have the kid. That doesn't fucking happen. I mean, if it does, it's so rare that we don't know much or ever about it. I mean, and that person's probably got some severe mental issues. If you're gonna, I've been pregnant for 8 months, I'm, fully gestated, I'm about ready to pop, but, I decided.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
made it.
Decided,
my mind.
Nope. No. And all those are, and under Roe even, in the third trimester, those late abortions, had to have a medical reason. There had to be a doctor sign off on that and go, yeah, it's necessary to do this. Not just, I just changed my mind. So that's all bullshit when they do that. Let's look at this real quick. So a lot of girls, teenage pregnancies way down since abortion rights. And part of that is because states that have abortion rights also have better sex ed for kids. They have more contraception, access to contraception. Because a lot of these states where they're banning abortion, they're also banning access to contraception. Like even simple shit like condoms, they're trying to ban. So basically, what they're really trying to do is make sex a punishment. I mean, it's weird draconian Christian shit. I don't know what to tell you. It's religious shit. But most women, if you can see this, are between 20 to 35. Right? Only 24% are outside of that range. 9% are teens, and women 35 or older are 15%. And that's up, actually, because more women are having careers and waiting longer. So, I mean, abortions as share of pregnancies have gone way, way down for all age groups. And then, of course, education is a big factor for abortions. College people, less so than people without college. Or some college or less. But I just wanted to point this out. It's like, this is a sort of a universal thing where it's a health issue. It's not about we want to kill babies. It's about the health of the mothers, typically, the health of the women. It's about having the rights to choose what to do with your body and to choose to do what to do with your own health. And they realize now, when we ban this shit, it is devastating to tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people sometimes. And now these people's lives are ruined because of this. And it's one of those things where for years they were like, no, we're not going to do national, we'll just leave it to the states. And then, of course, they lied about that shit. And then it's like, no, the Supreme Court justices aren't going to turn Roe v. Wade. Bush told us that. Trump told us that. No, they're not going to do that. And then they did. Now they're like, well, the states can decide and the voters can vote on it. Well, no, because the courts are pushing this. And the Senate won't even hear it. Or the Congress in the state of Arizona won't even hear the case. Won't even hear the bill. So, no, it's a minority rule issue at this point. And it's pissing people off. So I think, this is going to be a big issue at the polls, and it should be. I mean, but this is what you get with conservative rule. And it's just a nightmare. But we'll move on real quick, unless you had something else you wanted to add to that.
No.
But I just wanted to cover why this is it's just a hot issue, and it should be. And they should all they should all be politically punished for their position. But I do want to talk about political punishment. Well, that's going on. They are punishing themselves pretty badly. The Republican Party is in total batshit disarray right now. So you got Marjorie Greene threatening to oust the Speaker, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Now, once again, we got to remind you, about a year ago, Mike Johnson wasn't the Speaker. It was another guy named Kevin McCarthy. And he got ousted by his own party. Now, they had, I think it was an 8 or 9 person majority at that point in the House. Very slim majority. That's not very big considering there's, 500 something people in the House. So very small majority. right?
This has been the thinnest majority in history, even at that point.
Right. So when they ousted McCarthy, he quit and left. He didn't even stay and finish out his term. He just quit and left, right? And then other people quit and left because it was so crazy and they didn't want to be part of it. So that majority went down because they lost people. Because they lost seats, right? And now you've got two other guys who are quitting. This Ken Buck just quit, and the other guy, Gallagher, he's leaving. And those seats aren't going to be filled. So now when you calculate it all in, it's the Democrats have 213, and there's 3 independents who almost always vote with the Democrats. So the Democrats now have 216 votes. The Republicans have 217. So they have 1 vote majority now. And they have a ton of Republicans who are quitting this year and not running for office again because they're so sick of this shit from the right wing. And so they're kind of fucked, and it looks like they're definitely going to lose the House. I mean, I would bet money on it that they're going to lose the House. The Senate could be up for grabs, but, you know, we'll see how that all plays out. But it looks like the House is fucking gone. It's going to be Speaker Hakeem Jeffries next year. He's just biding his time. But it could be that if they lose 1 more vote, somebody gets sick, somebody dies. Now it's even in the House. And now they're screwed.
Yeah, they already can't get anything done.
Yeah, they haven't done anything since the Republicans have been in charge. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is now, with that delicate balance, threatening to oust the current speaker.
Like, what is she thinking?
I don't know.
Even if she hates the dude, she kind of needs him there.
Well, she's doing it because she thinks it's going to get her money and help with her election and all that shit. Not that she needs help with her election. She's in like the reddest district in the country. They don't give it. They'll vote for her no matter what. They don't even know what's going on. But we're going to jump into this because I think this is hilarious. So she's kind of rat fucking her own party here.
Johnson also mentioned the motion to oust him filed by Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Where does that stand, and what did he say about that?
So Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't taken the procedural step necessary to force a vote to oust Johnson, but she's taken the first step. She described it as a warning shot against Johnson. And since she made that quote unquote warning shot, she's only upped the pressure on the speaker and upped her criticism of him for averting a government shutdown, for instance, by working with Democrats, by potentially bringing Ukraine aid to the floor, though it's an open question if he actually does bring Ukraine aid to the floor. We know that Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene will meet today, not long from now. They have not spoken over the last 2 weeks when Congress has been out on recess, but they will meet. Johnson saying that he believes ousting him would be, of course, unproductive. It would throw the House back into chaos like when McCarthy was ousted and they went those 22 days without a Speaker of the House and the House floor was paralyzed. He also got a question as to whether or not he's talked to former President Trump about this issue, the leader of the Republican Party, about potentially trying to help him if Marjorie Taylor Greene does go forward with trying to oust him. Johnson says he's not going to talk about any kind of conversations he's had with the former president. And so the question hanging over Mike Johnson is, can he and Marjorie Taylor Greene put their differences to bed in this one-on-one meeting this morning, or does Marjorie Taylor Greene continue to be a thorn in Johnson's side over the course of his speakership?
Yeah.
I think we know the answer to that. She's going to be a thorn in his side because that's how it has to be. That's the thing we don't get. I mean, Johnson even... he doesn't really, because he's out there. He's the guy that doesn't have a bank account, who shares a porn app with his son to monitor when they're watching porn. Oh, he's a weird guy.
So weird. So weird.
He's a weird right-wing evangelical nutbag. He's a weird guy. But Marjorie Greene, for her, this is about fame and publicity. It's about all that, right? So she wants to get the camera time. So she's going to keep pushing this because it keeps getting her mentioned and getting her on the news, right? Here's the thing they never get. All the right-wing total nut jobs, right? We have some on the left too, but we basically just sort of ignore them. Most of them are selling pencils out of a cup on the street corner. We don't put them in Congress, right? What happens though is when you do that, now they're kind of in a position where they have to kind of always out-crazy each other. Otherwise they lose relevance, they lose meaning. And so what ends up happening is it's like Highlander rules, right? There can be only one, so they all have to fucking eat each other alive, and that's what's happening. And that's why all these people are bailing. So it's like it's just a fucking piranha pit on the left side, on the right side of the house. So it's like they're doing it. And just to give you a great example of that, because I know you were worried that Lauren Boebert's not going to get reelected and we wouldn't have any crazy people to talk about. You were so wrong, Lacey. We have plenty. So here's the majority report, and they're kind of going over some of this stuff. But the first clip is going to be Nancy Mace talking about this. Now, Nancy Mace is another crazy. Go ahead.
I got to say, if we're going to go with, the film and television references, I should have known we wouldn't run out of ones to talk about, because I'm thinking back in the days of like the whole Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing. She'll slay the crap out of one and like 5 more appear. So I think the Republican crazy situation is basically that, one disappears and like 5 more appear. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to run out. Right. I think we don't need to worry. There will be plenty.
Well, except for there's no Buffy here. I mean, it's just they're slaying each other. I mean,
we could use ourselves a Buffy in there to like whack-a-mole, like pop one down.
Stick some stakes into some vampires. Yeah. Anyway, so let's skip over here. So Nancy Mace. So here's your next vampire, Nancy Mace, and this is the majority report. They're going to talk about it. I'm just going to let them go because it's pretty funny.
McCarthy, who there was rumors, wasn't there? About Bartiromo and Kevin McCarthy.
Yep.
And so here we go.
And rumors of, again, just little breadcrumbs that Kevin McCarthy had been in the past, had gotten into some situations, maybe where he was speaking to other women in a certain way. There were rumors about affairs, of course, unconfirmed. And Nancy Mace seemed to have a particularly personal grievance with Kevin McCarthy.
Where are you on Mike Johnson? Do you want to see change in terms of these CRs? Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's ready to take a motion to vacate the chair. Where are you on this issue, Congresswoman?
Oh, I don't support the motion to vacate the chair. In fact, the motion that was filed wasn't privileged, and so we're actually not even going to vote on it. And so, Mike Johnson was dealt a bad hand. The former speaker, disgraced former speaker, set up a lot of bad deals, including that debt ceiling deal where this stems from.
Kevin McCarthy is not disgraced.
I consider him disgraced, absolutely.
Why?
Have you heard of this?
So they all have to talk shit about each other. That's the whole point. So she's talking shit about the previous speaker, and part of it's because he had some issues where he's kind of a sexist, and there was issues of affairs and shit, and that's what they were talking about before. But she's got to trash him because she's got to get on the board here where, okay, Greene's going after Johnson, but I'm Nancy Mason. I want to get on television. So I'm going to say, well, I'm against Greene, and it's not really Johnson's fault. I'm going to defend him. It's Kevin McCarthy's fault, who's a piece of shit. And so, once again, she has to attack Marjorie now and go back and forth and attack everybody else because there can be only one. Only one MAGA. So
wow, people, just wow.
I'm going to get back into this real quick.
This is like Republican girls gone wild, They're going to be all like flying each other's eyes out and...
Yeah, it's more like a reality television, yeah. Here we go.
Jerry.
Oh, hang on.
To the conference, he lied over and over again. He had a lot of bad deals, including the debt ceiling bill last year.
That he lied.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line on Ukraine funding, are you going to vote to send money to Ukraine? That's what Mike Johnson says he's going to bring to the floor.
Kevin McCarthy recruited a puppet to run against me in my Republican primary. You can go to puppetcatherine.com. He recruited somebody that can't win a general election in a purple district. Yes, he's a disgraced former speaker.
That just cracks me up. Okay, he's disgraced, I hate him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, whatever. It's not true, but okay, whatever. Now, how are you going to do it in Ukraine funding? Kevin McCarthy is still a disgrace, and he's a piece of shit.
Okay, so you know what's sort of funny about this? It's the Republican Party has gone so bonkers that this is a Fox program that we're looking at. Yeah, this is Fox business, and clearly... this Maria of the
Bar-
Mornings with Maria is
Bartiromo,
clearly, she's clearly going after and not supporting this other Republican Congresswoman here. She's not supporting her at all. And so when even Fox is like going after a Republican or like making them look not credible, you know the Republican Party has been so split in so many different directions and has gone so crazy that Fox can't even get behind them all. Normally Fox would just be like blanket behind them all, you know?
Well, Nancy Mace, to remind everybody, so this is really kind of what's happened. So Maria Bartiromo, actually at one point in her, I think in her 20s and early 30s, Maria Bartiromo was a really great financial journalist. Now she's a joke on Fox Business. Right? And so her career's got to tank. This is all that's left for her. She used to be a rising star, now she's just a cautionary tale. Nancy Mace, on the other hand, is a total joke. Nancy Mace, her staff, one of her staff members that quit, leaked out that she told them she wants 5 cable hits a day. She wants to be on TV more than she wants to be in Congress because she hasn't done shit while she's in Congress. She did the one thing where, what was it? She wore the Scarlet Letter. She wore a red A on her T-shirt. So I'm wearing the Scarlet Letter from the book because they won't let me speak. And everybody was laughing because it's like, you've never read the Scarlet Letter because that's not what that's about. The A is for adultery, not for not being able to speak. Fucking idiot.
Yeah, like, what the hell did you think the A was about?
But you see that there's 2 of them together, but they're clawing at each other because they have to be the ultimate. And it's always like the women always go after each other, and it's always like the black conservatives always have to eat each other alive, right? It's because it's like I'm a woman and a conservative, so I'm a woman who believes that women shouldn't have rights. Or I'm a black conservative. I'm a black guy who's a conservative because I believe black people shouldn't be able to vote. It's just the weirdest shit. So they have to eat each other alive. Because everybody else is cannibalizing on their money. So we're going to go back into this because they're eating each other. Now we're going to go back to Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of her bullshit with basically how she's kind of rat fucking the Republican Party to try and get more fame and attention. Right? And so they're going to cover this again. So back to Sam and Emma on the Majority Report.
It is a happy coincidence, though, and I would leave the speculation of stuff like that to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is trying to understand why her Christian nationalist that they finally all settled on, the guy who doesn't have a bank account that provides any interest, because, of course, why would you need that? I guess he's all cash, or maybe he just, I don't know. But here's Marjorie Taylor Greene complaining to Tucker Carlson, who does apparently still have a show.
Will vote for it as well. And this isn't a Republican speaker we have right now. This is a Democrat speaker of the House, because there is zero daylight between what Nancy Pelosi did last Congress and what Mike Johnson is doing now as our so-called Republican Speaker of the House.
Yeah, Mike Johnson's just like Nancy Pelosi.
Stroke? Yes, because Nancy Pelosi's definitely sharing porn apps with her kids.
And I'll tell you something else. Nancy Pelosi is heavily known for insider trading. And this guy won't even get an interest-bearing savings account because it's usury and it's against the Bible. While Nancy Pelosi was cheating the system. Top of the fact, Nancy Pelosi passed, several hundred bills the last time she was a speaker. This guy hasn't passed shit, except for to stop government shutdowns that they're creating.
Yep, they're definitely the same.
Yeah. God, it's just amazing. But see, she's got to attack him. They're just eating each other alive. And the thing about it is it's insane because it's like, you guys only have one vote majority. And they're eating each other because they're not interested in governing. They're interested in being famous or being rich or getting ahead. And they're using this as the platform. And the upside is, and they've said this before, the Republicans in the House and the Republicans in the Senate, they don't want to be in the majority. Because if you're in the majority, people expect you to do shit like pass bills. They expect you to deliver for the American people. They don't want to do that. They just want to bitch and moan and get on TV. So it doesn't do them any good to be the majority. So that might be that they're shooting themselves in the foot for a reason. But yeah, but I love Tucker's face here. I mean, he always looks like a fucking idiot. Like he's confused. Like he's pooping, but it feels weird, right? Like, it's just the weirdest shit with this guy. We'll watch the rest of this real quick, and then we'll wrap up.
It's just an amazing thing to see. Will he take a call from you?
I'm planning to speak with him on Friday, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
Oh, it's just interesting that he's talking, and a lot of people in the media are talking. We haven't been able to talk to, but to Zelensky, who's a foreigner, with his own interests, of course, but not an American, and certainly not, we hope, a voter in this country. But all these people take calls from Zelensky and are swayed by him. Is it a little weird to see an American Speaker of the House pay closer attention to a foreign leader, or a number of different foreign leaders, than he would to his own voters and colleagues in the House, in our legislative body?
So, what they keep getting back to is, this whole thing is, right now about this is, one, he avoided the government shutdown, but part of that was, and what she's pissed about, and what Nancy Mace was kind of alluding, or Bartiromo was alluding to Nancy Mace, was part of what the Republicans are pissed about is they're talking about aid to Ukraine for the war. So we're going to get into her last little response here on that.
Absolutely, especially considering Mike Johnson has completely changed his character in a matter of about 5 months after he has become Speaker of the House. Mike Johnson is a Christian. He called himself a conservative, always has been. He's a Republican member, but yet here we are after the minibus was passed just almost 2 weeks ago in Washington, and now with the $60 billion going to a war in Ukraine that 70% of Americans do not support it. That's the most recent polling. 70% of Americans, and the majority of Republicans do not support funding Ukraine. People want to see a peace deal in Ukraine, not murdering more Ukrainians and more Russians. This needs to end. But no, Mike Johnson has made a complete departure of who he is.
So, it's all horseshit. The thing with Ukraine is Ukraine has been invaded by Russia. They're repelling them. We're supporting them. Russia's our enemy, right? The Russian government is an enemy of the United States. Putin's an enemy.
Well, apparently she just wants to have a tea party with Russia.
Yeah, she wants to be in bed with Putin and Trump and all that. Her dream three-way.
Oh, God. I do not want to see the political cartoon for that.
It'd be some ugly kids. Plus, it'd probably be the greatest 4 seconds of her life. Anyway, so
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, the whole thing with Ukraine is it's the 70% of Americans are against it. That's bullshit. That's not true at all. Maybe 70% of Republicans. But the bottom line is they're repelling an invader. So yeah, plus they're going to be a phenomenal ally going forward in the future. So helping them out is only in our best interest. Plus, it's one of those deals where Mike Johnson's like, you can't have a government shutdown on his watch during an election year, because at this point they've played that card so many times. Everybody knows it's their fault. They can't play that card and then blame the president like they've done in the past, like they did to Obama. Because now what did we say it was last time? This is like the 5th. Oh no, this is like the 8th or 9th time this year. I mean, it's like a bunch of times just in the last year they've almost shut down the government. That's all they've done. Threaten to shut down the government, and then the speaker has to go beg the Democrats to bail him out. And that's their whole shtick. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other dipshits get upset with the speaker because he doesn't let the government fail and people not get their Social Security checks and postmen not get their paychecks and, federal officers and the military not get paid. I mean, remember, I don't know if you kids remember when we had the sequester deal under Obama that was really short-lived during that government shutdown. They shut it down for a few days. The FAA shut down, so you couldn't fly anywhere. Right? It was, and people were fucking pissed. And that was the thing that pissed off the voters the most. And then, of course, immediately the Republicans caved. Because the voters were like, we can't travel, we can't get anything done, IRS is closed. These people are idiots. So, yeah, we'll see who's left. Because there can be only one. They're going to cut each other's heads off until the end of time. So.
Kind of seems like it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're kind of out of time here, so we're going to wrap up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Lacey, where can everybody catch you?
As always, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com. You can find my articles, courses, workshops I do. You can email us for more information about them, or you could send us some topic requests, some fabulous clips you find you want us to look at, or invite yourself on to talk with us. Duncan, how can they do that?
Yeah, just email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. It's down below in the link, plus links to Lacey's blog and site. Yeah, that's it for today. Thanks everybody for watching us. Please like and subscribe and all that jazz if you liked it. We'll catch you next time.